Hello and welcome to the Modern Music Mixing course. Today we're not going to be doing mixing, we're going to be doing mastering, and I'm going to share with you all the processing I did to get this track nicely polished. Let's get into the session. So the first thing we're going to look at is the rhythm section. So the rhythm section is essentially holding all of these inside of it. So it has our rhythm guitar, our electric piano, and the piano rhythm group. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be essentially thickening up that entire rhythm section with a very simple EQ here. So what we've got is +1 decibel at 190 Hz with a nice wide band. First and foremost, I want to show you it without the EQ move in the context of the mix. Okay, now you've heard it without the EQ, I'll play you that again, but this time I'll intermittently switch the EQ on and off so that you can hear the effect that it's having. Okay, so before the EQ was on, what we basically had was a little bit of a too thin a sound to my ears. There was too much separation between the bass guitar and the rhythm section. So what we've essentially achieved here is a more fuller, lower mid-range, which is a little bit more connected with the bass guitar. So just to highlight what we've actually boosted, let's listen to this and actually solo the EQ node that we've used here. And I'll solo the rhythm section as well so that we can really hone in on the sound that we boosted. So those really warm frequencies. And you can hear the sort of relationship it has with the bass guitar now. Play you that again, but I'll bring the EQ out, and what you should hear is that it kind of sounds almost like there's a little hole in the lower mid-range where you've got the bass guitar nicely filling out the lows, and then the rhythm section kind of pops up in the mids, but you don't hear enough energy in the low mids. So that sounds quite thin to me at the moment. You can hear that just fill out that section just a little bit more. Okay, now that we've added that little corrective move to the rhythm section, now let's get into what we've done with the actual master bus. So first thing we're going to go into is this EQ here. Okay, so we'll start with it in bypass and then we'll bring the EQ in.
You do this thing to me, you make me smile with your style. You know, I'll try my best to make you joyous to the fullest. You and I will spend our days happy. You and I will have the world. If I fall, you'll catch me. If you fall, I'll catch you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you when you need me. You know I'm there. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you when you need me. You know I'm there.
You can hear how flat it sounds when we bring it out.
You know I'm there for you. You know I'm there for you. You know I'm there for you. You know I'm there for you.
Okay, so after hearing this EQ in bypass and then taking out of bypass and hearing its effects, it became quite apparent that without it, the mix sounds a little bit flat. It's lacking some of that clarity in the top end. Taking away some of that boxy mid-range here definitely seems to help, and also bringing out some more impact in the low range here with this nice wide EQ node helps a lot. Let's actually go through these one by one and really highlight the information that we're giving the mix and taking out with the mix here. So we'll start with this low band here.
You do this thing to me, you make me smile with your style. You know, I'll try my best to make you jump.
So there we're essentially bringing out that thump of the kick drum, the low thump of the snare drum, the chestiness of the vocal, and all of that low frequency information from the rhythm section that we've already brought out a little bit with this EQ here. So we brought out even more of it on the master bus here. Next move is here. Let's take a listen to what we're doing here.
You do this thing to me, you make me smile with your style. You know, I'll try my best.
Okay, so after having a little play around there, basically this node here is treating those honky, boxy mids. Okay, and the next EQ node we're going to look at here is this high shelf. Let's take a listen. So that's essentially bringing out that top end detail of the vocal. You're hearing that very thin, high frequency sound of the vocal coming out, also the sibilance of the hi-hats, and just catching some of the extreme top end of the rhythm section as well, just adding a little bit more liveliness and energy to the mix. And then finally we have this other high shelf, which is attenuating just 0.3 decibels. I can tell you about listening to that, basically that's just trying to control a little bit of that sibilance of the hi-hat. Right, and finally we are using the Ozone 7 Maximizer by Isotope. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that the mastering limiter here is going to be working in tandem with the mix bus automation and all of the automation that we've set up in this track. Now, what we've set to is minus 13 decibels. And during the verses, you'll notice that there's practically no limiting actually going on. Then when we hit the chorus, we get a little bit. Then as we automate up again, we get a bit more. And then as we hit the outro, the loudest part of the song, we are getting more aggressive limiting. Now, the idea here is we're essentially asking for more loudness, but we're trying to balance that with not affecting the track in a detrimental way. Now, let's take a listen to how the limiter responds to these automation moves.
You and I will spend our days happy. You and I will have the one.
So you can see here, no automation is actually happening.
You'll catch me. If you fall, I'll catch you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me.
Very mild compression happening here.
I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there.
Slightly more limiting happening in that section.
You know I'm there for you. You know I'm there for you.
And you can see here it's really starting to grab hold of those transients now.
You know I'm there for you.
Okay, so after listening to the limiter there, it was these sections which weren't bothering me at all. We were getting a nice amount of limits and good loudness for the choruses without it affecting the music too much. Only on the outro was we starting to get something of a negative effect from the limiter. You could hear it start to grab at the snare drum and really start to take away that punch, that transient punch that the snare drum was giving us. And also you could hear the kick drum was just starting to press into the limiter just a little bit too much. But for me, it is a matter of, deciding what do you want? Do you want the loudness or do you want the transient detail in the overall sound? And for all of this track, we do have that because we're not pushing into the limiter too hard. It's only on this outro section where we push that a little bit harder and we sacrifice a little bit of that punch in our mix to gain that loudness. And I was happy to make that sacrifice because it's not like we did it all the way through. We did it for that one section. And that's the end of Series 2 of the Modern Music Mixing course. I hope you all got a lot out of it, and thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.